Sometimes, it feels like everything is falling apart. The world feels chaotic, life feels confusing, and hope feels distant. But what if hope doesn't come from a perfect world, but from how you choose to see it? Welcome to English Bookshelf, where we explore ideas that help you understand life, meaning, and yourself. This is Everything is Fucked, a book about hope in a broken world. Imagine living in the best time in human history. You have access to unlimited information, comfort, technology, entertainment, freedom, and yet, you feel anxious, confused, restless. You scroll endlessly. You compare yourself with others. You question your purpose. You wonder why, despite having everything, something still feels missing. Why? Why do we live in a world that has more comfort than ever before? And yet people feel more hopeless than ever before? This is the question Mark Manson asks in his bold and brutally honest book, Everything is Fucked, a book about hope. At first, the title sounds negative, but the message inside the book is not about despair. It is about understanding hope in a broken world. Manson begins by explaining something uncomfortable. Human beings are not as rational as we think we are. We like to believe that we make decisions using logic, that we are in control, that we think before we act. But in reality, most of our decisions are driven by emotions. Our feeling brain decides, and our thinking brain justifies. We don't choose what makes logical sense. We choose what feels good, or what helps us avoid pain. And this creates a problem, because in a world full of endless choices, constant stimulation, and unrealistic expectations, our emotions become overwhelmed. We are constantly chasing happiness, but we rarely find it. Why? Because we are chasing the wrong things. Manson explains that modern society has created a dangerous illusion. The idea that we are supposed to be happy all the time, that life should be easy, that success should feel amazing, that we deserve constant comfort and pleasure. But the truth is very different. Life is difficult. Life includes pain, struggle, and uncertainty. And when we expect life to be perfect, every small problem feels like a disaster. This is why people feel hopeless. Not because their lives are terrible, but because their expectations are unrealistic. Manson introduces a powerful idea. Hope is not about believing everything will be perfect. Hope is about believing that your struggles have meaning, that your pain has purpose, that your effort matters. Because without meaning, suffering feels pointless. And when suffering feels pointless, we lose hope. The book also explains that our modern culture has become obsessed with comfort. We avoid discomfort. We avoid pain. We avoid responsibility. But ironically, this avoidance creates more suffering because growth only happens through discomfort. Strength comes from struggle. Confidence comes from overcoming challenges. Meaning comes from responsibility. When we remove struggle from our lives, we remove meaning from our lives. And without meaning, life feels empty. This is the paradox of modern happiness. The more we try to avoid pain, the more lost we feel. As your audience listens to this, they begin to realize something important. Maybe the problem is not their life. Maybe the problem is how they are thinking about life. Maybe happiness is not about having a perfect life. Maybe it is about having a meaningful one. And this is where the real journey of this book begins. A journey into understanding hope. Not the shallow hope of comfort and easy success, but a deeper, stronger hope. The kind of hope that survives even when life feels broken. As the journey through this book continues, Mark Manson begins to break down something that we rarely question: our idea of happiness. From childhood, we are taught that happiness is the goal. We are told to chase success, chase comfort, chase pleasure, chase the perfect life. And we grow up believing that if we achieve enough, earn enough, own enough, or become enough, we will finally feel fulfilled. But then, something strange happens. People achieve success and still feel empty. They get what they wanted and still feel restless. They reach their goals and still feel like something is missing. Why? Because happiness was never meant to be the final destination. Manson explains that humans are not designed to be permanently happy. We are designed to solve problems. Every time we solve one problem, we create another. Every time we reach one goal, we set a new one. And this cycle never ends. So if your life's purpose is to feel happy all the time, you will always feel like you are failing. Instead, the book introduces a more powerful idea. Your life is defined by the problems you are willing to deal with. The question is not, how can I avoid problems? The question is, which problems are worth my time, my energy, and my effort? Because every meaningful life includes struggle. A meaningful career includes challenges. A meaningful relationship includes conflict. A meaningful goal includes sacrifice. The difference is that these struggles feel worth it. They give your life purpose. Manson calls this choosing your values. Because your values determine how you interpret your experiences. If your value is comfort, then any discomfort feels like failure. If your value is growth, then discomfort feels like progress. If your value is approval from others, then rejection feels devastating. If your value is self-respect, then rejection becomes a lesson. The problem is that many people choose shallow values without realizing it. They value fame instead of purpose. They value pleasure instead of growth. They value validation instead of truth. And these values make them fragile because they depend on things they cannot control. Manson explains that true strength comes from choosing values that are within your control. Values like honesty, responsibility, curiosity, learning, resilience. When you choose these values, your life becomes more stable. Because no matter what happens outside, you still have control over your actions and your mindset. The book then takes us deeper into the concept of hope. But not the kind of hope most people believe in. Not blind optimism. Not unrealistic expectations. Not the belief that everything will magically work out. Instead, Manson introduces the idea of rational hope. A grounded, realistic hope. The belief that life will include pain and difficulty, but that you are strong enough to handle it. This type of hope does not ignore reality. It faces reality directly. And that is what makes it powerful. Because when your hope is based on truth, it cannot be easily destroyed. The book also introduces a fascinating concept called the uncomfortable truth. The truth that life is uncertain. That you cannot control everything. That bad things will happen. That you will fail sometimes. Most people avoid this truth because it feels uncomfortable. But avoiding truth creates anxiety. Accepting truth creates freedom. Because once you accept that you cannot control everything, you stop trying to control everything. You focus only on what you can influence. Your actions, your effort, your choices. And that is where real peace begins. As your audience listens to this part, they begin to feel a shift in perspective. They start to see that their frustration may not come from their circumstances, but from their expectations. They begin to realize that a meaningful life is not a life without problems. It is a life with worthwhile problems. And this realization changes everything because it replaces helplessness with responsibility. It replaces confusion with clarity. It replaces empty happiness with meaningful purpose. And now, the book prepares us to go even deeper into the emotional system that drives all of our choices, and how we can learn to master it instead of being controlled by it. As the book moves deeper, Mark Manson turns our attention to something we rarely question: the battle inside our own minds. He explains that within each of us, there are two forces constantly at work: the thinking brain and the feeling brain. The thinking brain believes it is in control. It analyzes, calculates, and plans. It believes it makes logical decisions. But the feeling brain, that is the real driver. The feeling brain reacts instantly. It seeks pleasure. It avoids pain. It craves certainty. It fears loss. And most of the time, the feeling brain decides first. Then the thinking brain steps in and creates a story to justify it. This is why people know what they should do, but still do the opposite. They know they should exercise, but they stay in bed. They know they should save money, but they spend it. They know they should be honest, but they avoid difficult truths because emotions overpower logic. And in a world full of endless stimulation, social media, instant gratification, and constant comparison, our feeling brain is constantly triggered. We chase likes. We chase attention. We chase validation. We chase pleasure. But none of it lasts. The more we chase short-term comfort, the weaker our ability to handle long-term discomfort becomes. And this is where modern society becomes dangerous, because it trains us to expect everything instantly. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant approval, instant success. But meaning does not come instantly. Meaning requires patience, effort, struggle. Manson explains that one of the biggest reasons people feel hopeless today is because they have lost their ability to tolerate discomfort. They want solutions without effort, success without failure, happiness without pain. But that is not how life works. And when reality does not match these unrealistic expectations, people feel betrayed. They feel lost. They feel like something is wrong with them. But nothing is wrong with them. They are simply trying to live by an impossible standard. The book introduces a powerful idea called the feedback loop from hell. This is when you feel bad. Then you feel bad about feeling bad. You feel anxious. Then you feel weak for being anxious. You feel sad. Then you feel guilty for feeling sad. And this loop keeps growing. Instead of accepting negative emotions as part of life, you judge yourself for having them. And this creates even more suffering. Manson explains that emotional pain is not the enemy. Resistance to emotional pain is the real problem. When you accept that life includes discomfort, you stop fighting it. And when you stop fighting it, it loses its power over you. This is where true emotional strength begins. Not in pretending everything is fine, but in facing reality honestly. The book also challenges the modern idea that we must always believe in ourselves. Blind self-belief can be dangerous, because if your confidence is built on unrealistic expectations, it will collapse the moment you fail. Instead, Manson encourages building confidence through action, through small, consistent efforts, through proving to yourself that you can handle difficulty. Because real hope is not based on fantasy. It is based on evidence. Evidence that you have survived challenges before. Evidence that you can grow. Evidence that you can learn from failure. As your audience listens to this, they begin to see their own struggles differently. They begin to understand that their negative emotions are not signs of weakness. They are part of being human. And that maybe, instead of trying to escape discomfort, they can learn to face it. And when they do that, something powerful happens. They stop chasing happiness and start building meaning. And this is where the book prepares us for its final and most profound message. That even in a world that feels broken, even when everything seems chaotic, hope is still possible. But only if it is built on truth, responsibility, and courage. As this journey comes to its final stage, everything Mark Manson has built throughout the book begins to connect into one powerful realization. The world may feel chaotic. Politics feel unstable. Social media feels overwhelming. Expectations feel impossible. The future feels uncertain. And sometimes, it really does feel like everything is falling apart. But the book does not end in despair. It ends with a deeper, stronger kind of hope. Not hope that everything will be perfect. Not hope that pain will disappear. Not hope that life will suddenly become easy. But hope that even in chaos, meaning is still possible. Manson reminds us that suffering is not optional. Pain is part of being human. You will lose people. You will fail. You will be misunderstood. You will experience uncertainty. And none of that makes your life broken. What makes life feel broken is believing that it was supposed to be painless. The moment you accept that struggle is part of the deal, you stop feeling betrayed by life. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What can I learn from this?" That shift changes everything. Because when you stop resisting reality, you gain power over it. The final message of the book is simple but profound. Choose better values. Values that are within your control. Honesty over validation. Growth over comfort. Responsibility over blame. Courage over avoidance. When you live by these values, your hope becomes stable. Because it is not based on external success. It is based on who you choose to be. Manson also reminds us that meaning is created through responsibility. When you take responsibility for your life, your choices, your emotions, your reactions, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become the author of your story. And that does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes purposeful. As your audience listens to this final part, they begin to feel something unexpected. Relief. Relief that they do not have to be perfect. Relief that they do not have to be happy all the time. Relief that their struggles are not signs of failure. They begin to understand that feeling lost sometimes is normal, that discomfort is part of growth, that confusion can lead to clarity, and that hope is not about ignoring reality. It is about facing reality with courage. The title of the book may sound harsh, but the message is deeply human. Yes, the world can feel broken. Yes, life can feel overwhelming. But you still have choices. You can choose what to value. You can choose how to respond. You can choose to grow through pain instead of running from it. And in that choice, there is hope. Not fragile hope. Not naive hope. But strong, grounded hope. The kind of hope that survives difficulty. The kind of hope that is built on responsibility, truth, and resilience. As the video closes, your audience is left with one powerful realization. They do not need a perfect world to build a meaningful life. They only need the courage to choose better values and the discipline to live by them. Because even when everything feels messed up, meaning is still possible. And where there is meaning, there is always hope. In the end, life will never be perfect, but you can still create meaning within it through better values, better choices, and the courage to face reality. If you found value in this journey, subscribe to English Bookshelf for more powerful book insights. Because even when everything feels messed up, hope is still possible.